When someone pinches you when you feel pain, your body's warning your brain that something is wrong. But there are some people who don't feel any pain, not even if they touch their hand to a hot pen, or when they hit their little toe on the sofa. When this happens to you, you take your hand off the pen right away or complain about pain in your toe. And it might even seem good not to feel pain, right? But people who don't feel pain have a disease called SIPA that makes them unable to feel even when they're really hurt. And because of this, most don't even reach 20 years old. Pain is a good thing. What would happen if you went without speaking for a whole month? After just one day, you still wouldn't notice much of a difference, and right in the first 5 days, it would start getting weird if you try to speak, because you would have your speech kinda rusty. Now it's gonna start getting crazy, so don't try to do this, because after 10 days without speaking, your voice muscles would get weaker each day. If you try to speak, your voice would come out hoarse and with pain. After 20 days, it would be very hard to speak, because your voice would fail all the time, and you would feel pain when trying to talk. But after a month, your voice would be very weak and you would need treatment to speak again. Remember to talk. When you take a medicine and it seems like it knows where your pain is, know that it doesn't actually know where you're feeling pain, because it's like your whole body had different locks in each part of it. And when you take a medicine for heart pain, for example, it's like it was a key and goes traveling through your whole body, going through all the locks and trying to open them until it finds the one it fits into, just like your finger clicking subscribe. If you look at this pen, you see that it has a hole in the middle of the tube. This hole exists to make sure it doesn't explode. But how so? When you're in a very high place, like in an airplane or even in a building with many floors, these places have a very strong force called pressure, and the pen needs the pressure to be equal inside and outside of it, otherwise it explodes. What would happen if you went without seeing for a whole month? After just 2 days, you would start not knowing well if it's day or night, and right in the first week, this skin that stays in front of the eyes, the eyelid, might start to stick to the eye because it would accumulate that eye gunk that's in your eye when you wake up. But after about 2 weeks, since you are not using your eyes, the brain would give more attention to the other senses, making your hearing or nose become stronger. Now it's gonna start getting crazy, so don't try to do this, because after about 3 weeks without seeing anything, your eyes would get much weaker, since there's a part of it that breathes through tears. But after a month, when you open your eyes, it would be like when someone turns on a very bright light in the dark. Have you ever wondered how seedless grapes exist? The truth is that many fruits we eat are clones of other fruits. To do this, they cut a piece of the plant, put it in some growth products, and then plant this piece in a mud that's ready for this. But for seedless grapes to exist, a long time ago, a guy found a grape with the defect of not having seeds and started cloning it. Every time you fold a paper, it gets twice the thickness. When you fold it 7 times, it's already the size of a bean. And right at the 9th fold, it will already be the size of an egg. If each time it keeps growing more and more like this, how many times would you have to fold a paper to reach the moon? Well, with 11 folds, it would already have the height of a basketball. After 14, it would be about the size of a person. And with 22, the paper would already have the height of the Eiffel Tower. It's getting crazy, because with 27 folds, it would already have the height of Mount Everest. And with 30, it would already be enough to reach the space. After 36 folds, this paper would have the height of Mars. But the paper would reach the moon after being folded 42 times. This is how you never lose at tic-tac-toe. Always start with the bottom left space. And if your opponent marks anywhere that is in the middle, you win. Because when you mark on the top left or on the bottom right, they will try to block you. And this is where you're gonna win the game, because you are the one who will mark the middle. And when you do this, your opponent can play wherever they want and it will be impossible to win. But what happens if they play in the middle at the beginning? Even so, you won't lose, but you also won't win. It's probably a tie. When you cut your nail and don't feel any pain, this happens because the nail starts growing under the skin, in a place we can't see. But when it keeps growing and coming out of that place, it disconnects from the wires that connect the hand and the brain. And when this happens, the nail becomes like a lifeless piece of the body. If the water you drink is over 4 billion years old, why does it have an expiration date on the bottle? Well, if you drink the water after this date, it probably won't be good. But it's not the water's fault, because it doesn't spoil by itself. What spoils it is that over time this bottle's age and release some mini pieces of plastic into the water. This is how you make the bottle always land upright. All you're gonna need is a bottle and some water. Now you're going to put the water in the right amount, because if you put too much water, the bottle gets heavy and doesn't spin right. And if you put too little, it gets light and spins too much. Put about 3 or 4 fingers of water in the bottle. But be careful, when throwing, it's better to keep your hand kinda still and make the movement only with your elbow. What if you forced yourself not to blink your eyes for a whole day? After just 30 seconds, you would already start to feel your eyes dry. And right in the first 3 minutes, it would feel like there is sand in your eyes. Now it's gonna start getting crazy, so never try to do this. Because after almost 1 hour without blinking, your eyes would start hurting so much that you would start crying automatically to try to get your eyes wet. After 6 hours, all your vision would get blurry. And right after that, your brain would try to turn off the reflexes to stop feeling pain. But after 24 hours, your eyes would be completely damaged and blind forever. Remember to blink.
If you say the whole alphabet, you notice that there are 4 letters that you can't say without closing your mouth. I know this is kinda weird, but try saying all the letters like this, like A, B, C, D, E. You saw that my mouth closed when I said the letter B, right? Well, if you say the whole alphabet and find the other 3 letters, you subscribe to the channel.
What would happen if you went without brushing your teeth for 30 days? On the first day, you would start getting bad breath and would even feel like your mouth was dirty. After 3 days, this dirt would get harder on your teeth and you would need the dentist to remove it. Now it's gonna start getting very dangerous, so never try to do this. Because after about 5 days without brushing your teeth, this skin that stays on top of them, the gums, would start getting very red and swollen. When you had been about 12 days without brushing your teeth, they would have a very yellow wall stuck to the teeth that doesn't come off even brushing. But if you manage to go 30 days without brushing your teeth, besides everyone feeling the stench coming from your mouth, your teeth would become kinda rotten, so go brush.
This is how you move just one eyebrow. First, try moving both eyebrows together. If it worked, now you're going to try holding one of them to get used to the movement. But unlike this, put 2 fingers on top of this fold of the eyebrow, like this. Now hold kind of tight and try to move the eyebrow. Repeat this until you get used to it, and when you take your hand away,
what would happen if you went to the gym for 100 days? On the first day, you would get very tired because your body isn't used to all the exercises. And on the second day, get ready because the muscles in your body will start hurting, like an elephant had walked over you. Okay, maybe I exaggerated, but they will hurt a little. This is normal because your muscles would be recovering. But after a week exercising, your memory and concentration would improve. You would even become happier. In around 50 days, you would start noticing that your muscles are growing and you would have more energy for almost everything. But after 100 days going to the gym, besides your heart working better, your body would get stronger inside and outside. Have you ever wondered why we eat cake on birthdays? I'll tell you right now, that's not just because cake is good. Because about 3,000 years ago, the Greeks had a moon goddess called Artemis. And every year, when her birthday came, they offered a round cake because it has the same shape as the moon. The candles were placed on the cake to represent the brightness of the moon. After some time, this spread around the world and that's why today you eat cake. When you dream that you are falling and wake up scared, this happens because when you are very tired, had a stressful day, or you are in a kind of uncomfortable position to sleep, at the moment you are starting to fall asleep, your brain doesn't really know if you are sleeping or awake. And when your body is getting more relaxed, the brain can get confused, thinking that you are really falling, and gives you a scare to try to save you. When you throw water on fire and goes out, this happens because fire needs 3 things to exist: heat, something to burn, and oxygen. But when you throw water on this fire, it solves 2 of these 3 things, because it absorbs heat very quickly and turns into steam. When this happens, it kinda blocks the oxygen and the fire disappears. What would happen if you went without drinking water for 5 days? On the first day, you would have headaches and your pee would get a super dark color, plus a very strong smell. After 2 days without drinking water or any liquid like juice, you practically wouldn't pee anymore. Your skin would get kinda dry and you'd start feeling dizzy, since your brain would be getting damaged, making you even kinda slow. But now it's gonna start getting crazy, so never try to do this, because if you reach the 3rd day, you would have problems with your whole body and might even end up having hallucinations. After going without drinking water for 4 days, your body would get hotter, like with fever, and your skin would start getting kind of colorless. And if you manage to reach the 5th day without drinking water, you probably wouldn't survive, so go drink water. When you go to make your passport, it's forbidden to smile for the photo, and the reason actually makes sense, because no, it's not forbidden because they want you to look serious. Actually, inside your passport there's a chip with several pieces of your information, including things like the distance from your nose to your chin or even the size of your mouth. But when you smile, your face gets kinda different and it becomes harder to identify. If you pull your skin like this and it stays up, be careful, because when you pinch the skin and it goes back to normal quickly, everything is okay. This means you are well hydrated. But if you do this and the skin stays like that, it's a sign that you need to drink more water. When you eat something and you suddenly choke, this happens because in your throat there are two different tubes. The first one, called the esophagus, is where the food passes until it reaches your stomach. And the second one is the trachea, which takes air to your lungs, and it has a lid that closes so food doesn't fall into the lungs. The problem is when you eat too fast or don't chew properly, the food can end up in this tube before the lid closes, and you choke so it doesn't reach the lung. When you crack your knuckles and make this noise, this happens because between the bones of your fingers there is a liquid that serves so the bones don't keep hitting each other. And when you stretch your fingers, your bones kind of move apart. At this moment, bubbles start appearing in that liquid because it needs to follow the bones. And when you crack your knuckles, the noise is from the bubbles popping. When you stop spinning and get dizzy, you kind of trick your brain, because it thinks you're still spinning when you're actually stopped. Since deep in your ears there's a liquid called endolymph, and it moves along with you when you're spinning, to tell your brain that this is happening. But when you suddenly stop spinning, it keeps moving for a while, and the brain thinks you're still spinning. This is how you don't get dizzy when you stop spinning. Stay in a position where you can spin away from anything you could hit. Raise your arms until you look like the letter T, like this. Now start spinning, still with your arms raised. When you think you would get dizzy if you stopped, after having spun a few times, before stopping, spin just a little bit to the other side and that's it. What if I told you that the water you drink can kill you? Would you believe it? The worst part is that I'm not talking about old or spoiled water, it's normal water. But how can something that's so good for our health like water end up taking your life? During the day we normally drink about 8 cups of water, and this is very good. But when you start overdoing it too much, water becomes like poison for your body. Because if you drank like 25 cups of water in 1 hour, this would fill your stomach super fast, and the water would end up going to your blood, making it kind of watery. But even your brain will pull water, and this would make it swell until it presses the bone in your head. When you go for a run, your life literally increases, because this makes the heart stronger and it decreases the risk of diseases in it. And they say that for every 1 hour of running, you gain 7 more hours of life. But there is a limit. Usually more than 4 hours of running per week doesn't make that much of a difference in the results. So if you start running at least 3 times a week for about 20 minutes, you might end up gaining about 5 more years of life, because if someone has ever taken a photo of you and your eyes turned red, know that this happened because when you are in a kind of a dark place, the pupils of your eyes grow to try to see better. But when someone is going to take the photo when the flash is on, a very strong light enters directly into your eyes. And since the pupils are bigger, they receive more light than normal all of a sudden. This light crosses through your eyes until it reaches the back, where it hits these blood vessels and comes back pointing directly into the camera in kind of a reddish way. Have you ever wondered why we eat popcorn at the movies? I will tell you right now, that's not just because popcorn is good. Because about 100 years ago, movie theaters almost went bankrupt in the United States, and what saved them was popcorn. Since making popcorn is very cheap and they sell it very expensive, right? But besides that, there's one more thing. Popcorn is very easy to make and also to eat. Like, you don't need to use a fork to eat popcorn. Have you ever wondered if it's possible for someone to die from laughter? Maybe you think this is impossible, but you're very wrong. Pay attention, because knowing this can save your life. I said this can happen because when something very funny happens and you can't stop laughing, this even seems like a good thing. But after some time you can start feeling a short of breath, and then you can feel a very strong tightness in your chest. If it gets to this, what happens is that it would be hard for your blood to reach your brain, and you would start getting dizzy. And even though this is very hard to happen, if you already have health problems, you might not survive. You probably write with your right hand, right? It might not be the case, but most people write with this hand. And to this day, science doesn't know exactly why is this, but they imagine that the reason is the heart, since our heart is on the left side and our ancestors needed to protect it. To do this, they kept their left hand free while they attacked with the right. What would happen if you lost this skin that stays in front of your eyes? Right in the first 10 minutes without the eyelids, which is the name of this skin, it would feel like there is sand in your eyes. After about 2 hours, you would start feeling pain even to see light, and your vision would start getting blurry. Now it's gonna start getting very dangerous, so take good care of your eyelids, because after 1 day without them, your eyes would get very red, swollen, and bacteria could start accumulating in them. Not to mention the hard time sleeping without closing your eyes, right? Because when it reaches the 4th day, the eyes would start having very strong injuries and you would become almost blind. But if you reach it around 10 days without this skin of the eyes, you would be blind forever, so be careful. This is how you make a water drop sound with your mouth. Leave your mouth kinda open, like if you were going to whistle, like this. And with your hand, you're gonna need to flick your cheek. But if you do this now, it's gonna hurt and still won't work, because your mouth has to open like you were saying the word well. Now you just put together the mouth movement with the flick and subscribe to the channel.
What if I told you that the chocolate you eat can kill you? Would you believe it? The worst part is that I'm not talking about old or spoiled chocolate, it's normal chocolate. But how can something that's so delicious like chocolate end up taking your life? After lunch, we normally eat a dessert, and sometimes this dessert is some little pieces of chocolate. This can even be good for you, but when we start overdoing it too much, this chocolate becomes like poison for your body. Because if for some reason you ate like 85 chocolate bars all at once, your heart would start being attacked by a thing called theobromine that's in chocolate. This would get stronger and stronger until the heart stops beating. If you put these two fingers under your thumb, you'll be able to feel your heart beating. But there's another place that's very easy to feel the heartbeats too. Pay attention, because knowing this can save a person's life. Right here on your neck, use the same two fingers, it's important that it's them. Now just touch very lightly on the side of the throat and under this bone fold that's up here, and you'll feel it.
What would happen if you went without eating for 30 days? After just one day, you would only feel more hunger than normal. And right in the first 3 days, you would start getting very tired and have a lot of headaches, because your body would start using fat as energy. Now it's gonna get crazy, so don't try to do this. Because after 7 days without eating, the heart would have serious problems and you would lose weight very quickly. After about 12 days, your body wouldn't use fat as energy anymore, because it would start spending your muscles and you would get weaker and weaker. On day 20, your body would stop trying to ask for food from you. It would give up and your heart would be full of problems. But after 1 month, you probably wouldn't survive, so go eat. Have you ever wondered why bananas don't have seeds? The truth is that a long time ago, they really had seeds that were the size of beans. And today, the bananas we eat are considered kind of fake fruits, because they need us to exist. Since the seeds of fruits are like their source of life, and about 7,000 years ago, people started planting only the bananas that had fewer seeds, and kept repeating this until today you can buy the banana without fear.
This is how you cut an apple without having a knife. All you're gonna need is an apple and a little bit of string. Then hold the apple with your left hand and close your right hand like a cup, like this. Keep your hand like this and grab the apple, in a way that the part with the apple stem will be touching the bottom part of your hand. Then do the same thing with your left hand. It will look like this. Now put a lot of force with the bottom parts of your hand, subscribe to the channel, and...
When you walk, your phone counts your steps, but is it right? To find out, I'm gonna walk exactly 1000 steps and then see how many counted. When I started walking, I kept clicking this counter at every step to make sure I was gonna walk nothing more and nothing less than 1000 steps. But after walking half the way, I kept thinking, how does the phone count this? Is it by location or by the movement we make walking? I don't know, but after taking 900 steps, I'm almost sure that the phone's gonna be wrong. Now it's the moment of truth. 998, 999, subscribe, 1000 steps. Let's see. When you pet a cat and it makes this sound, many people think this only happens when the cat's happy, but this doesn't only happen when it's happy. There can be many reasons. It could even be the cat warning that it's sick or scared. But normally this happens because when a cat gets petted, its brain sends signals to this tube called larynx. It has like a little door that opens and closes, and that's where the air passes through. And when this happens, the cat's body kind of vibrates and makes this noise that we call purring.
This is how you hear your true voice, the same way other people hear it. And no, I'm not talking about recording audio with your phone and listening later. All you're gonna need is your hands. Put your right hand in front of your ear like this. Now do the same thing with your left hand. And when you say something, well, my voice is weird.
When you're sad and water comes out of your eyes because you're crying, this happens because above your eyes there is a thing that produces tears literally all the time. And this thing is called lacrimal gland. It keeps creating these tears even when you're not crying. And this happens because tears kind of protect your eyes against bacteria. But when you get sad or even happy, these glands start creating much more tears than normal, and then you cry.
When you brush your teeth and things taste terrible, this happens because our tongue is full of sensors, so we can taste the flavor of foods and drinks. The problem is that almost all toothpastes have an ingredient called SLS, which is used to make foam when you brush our teeth. But this ingredient kinda turns off some of the sensors we have on our tongue, especially the ones that makes us taste the flavors of sweet things. And for about 30 minutes, you keep tasting everything with a kind of bitter flavor, like me waiting for you to subscribe to the channel.
I'm pretty sure someone has already told you that cracking your knuckles is bad for you. They say that doing this can make your fingers thicker or even cause a disease called arthritis. And for about 50 years, a doctor named Donald Unger kept cracking the knuckles of only his left hand every day. He did this twice a day and ended up cracking his knuckles more than 36,000 times, while the right hand stayed still. All of this because his family said that cracking knuckles was bad, and after these 50 years, the left hand was as healthy as the right one. What would happen if you went without showering for a whole month? After just 3 days, you would already start getting kinda smelly, especially on your feet or armpits. And right in the first 7 days, your hair would get kinda sticky because of like a grease that it creates on its own. Now it's gonna start getting crazy, so don't try to do this, because after 10 days without showering, more pimples than normal would start appearing because your skin would get kinda clogged from so much dirt. After about 20 days, your skin will start getting irritated and red because it would be full of bacteria. But after a month, your skin would get kind of a thick layer of dirt and you would get super smelly, so go shower. When you swallow a gum, does it stay in your stomach for 7 years? Actually, it doesn't really work like that, because it's true that your body can digest gum like other foods, but it doesn't get stuck in your stomach like many people think. It keeps moving around there, and in up to 2 days later, it comes out whole just like corn. What would happen if you forced yourself not to sleep for a whole week? After one whole day awake, you would seem like you were drunk and you would get hungrier than normal. And right in the first 2 days, you would get very angry with simple things and of course very tired. Now it's gonna start getting crazy, so never try to do this, because after 3 days without sleeping, you would start seeing things. It would be hard to understand what's real and what's not, making you even angrier with everyone. On day 4, everything gets dangerous, because besides getting more aggressive with people and seeing things, you would start falling asleep out of nowhere at any moment. But if you reached 7 days, you probably would never be able to recover from this, so go sleep. When a person gets married and starts wearing a gold ring, this happens because about 4,000 years ago, the custom of wearing rings started, but they weren't made out of gold yet. Actually, rings were normally made out of plants or leather, but to represent love well, the chosen object was the ring because it's a circle that has no beginning or end, and rings being made out of gold became a custom after they discovered that gold is a very strong material, just like love should be. When you feel an itch in your nose and sneeze, this happens because your body is trying to protect you, because when something enters your nose, those hairs that are inside it warn the brain that there's something that shouldn't be there. But before sneezing, your body gets ready. You pull in air, your eyes close, and your tongue goes up to the roof of your mouth. All of this so your sneeze reaches 100 miles per hour and expels what's in your nose. When you listen to a song and then it won't get out of your head at all, this happens because your brain loves to memorize patterns. Because a long time ago we needed this to remember where important things were, like food. And when a song has a very repetitive rhythm, this makes your brain keep trying to repeat the same pattern it heard. But it keeps going in circles with this until you hear the whole song again. When you subscribe to a YouTube channel, what happens is much more than changing the color of the button. Because the moment you click subscribe, the button even changes colors right away. But right after that, the app sends like a message to YouTube's server saying, this person wants to subscribe to this channel. After a few milliseconds, like about 10 times less than a second, YouTube checks if it's really you asking to subscribe and that you're not a robot. But after about half a second, YouTube's system writes down in a gigantic list that you are now subscribed to that channel. And when this happens, YouTube will understand that you want to see more videos from that channel and will start showing it to you more times. Click here to make this happen. Can you make this drawing without taking the pen off the paper? Seems impossible, right? But it's not. Check it out. First, make the small circle that's in the middle, like this. And now it seems like there is no way to reach the bigger circle without making a line to it, right? To get there, put a corner of the paper until you reach the small circle. Now keep making a line on top of this fold, like this. And when you get up here, just bring the pen back to the right side of the paper and... Why aren't keyboards in alphabetical order? Maybe you think they're made this way so we can type faster, but actually it's the opposite of that, because these keyboards that have the name QWERTY because of the first 6 letters are slower than if they were in alphabetical order. But then why do we use them? The truth is that almost 200 years ago, people used those typewriters with keys in alphabetical order. The problem is that when you type it very fast using nearby letters, like in the word defeat, the machine keys would hit each other and everything would jam, and so this wouldn't happen anymore. The orders stay like this. When someone tickles you and you can't resist without laughing, your brain is kinda trying to protect you, because tickling is like an alarm. Since probably thousands of years ago, our ancestors needed to detect some dangerous insects on their skin. That's why some parts of the body, like the armpits, are more sensitive. The problem is that some people like me feel tickling very easily, but I can't tickle myself. You know why? The truth is that trying to tickle yourself is almost the same thing as trying to scare yourself in the mirror. You can laugh when your brain knows it's yourself, yourself.
If you make a triangle with your hands and keep looking at something that's far away, you'll discover which of your eyes is the main one. Stay with both eyes open and concentrate on what you're looking at. Now close one of your eyes, and when you go to open it, close the other one. You'll notice that you couldn't see what you were looking at with one of the eyes. This one is not the main eye. And when what you're looking at stays perfectly visible, this is your main eye. If it worked, subscribe. This is how you whistle with your hands. Leave your left hand wide open, but with your fingers together, like this. Now put your right hand in front of the fingers of your left hand. But do this in a way that your pinky finger fits with the middle finger of your left hand. Then close the fingers of your right hand behind the thumb of the other hand. It will kinda look like this. Now leave the thumbs very close to each other, like this. Put your mouth on top of this bone of the fingers, subscribe to the channel and...
Soccer balls are made of pentagons and hexagons, and actually it's very important that they're made this way, because if it were made only of pentagons, it couldn't be a ball, since they don't fit together perfectly. This would also happen if they were only hexagons, but when these two shapes are mixed together, each piece fits perfectly, until the ball has the shape of a ball. Subscribe.
This is how you make your arms control themselves. All you're gonna need is an open door. Now stay still right in the middle of it, and push your hands on this part that holds the door. Keep pushing for around 1 minute, even if it's kind of hard. When the time's up, just take a step forward and this happens.
Have you ever entered a room to get something and ended up forgetting why you were there? This happens because of a thing called doorway effect. As soon as you see a door, your brain sees this almost like the beginning of a new chapter, and when you go through it, it kind of hides the memory from the previous chapter to have room for what comes now. This means you end up forgetting what you needed. And if you need to remember, just go back to before going through that door and take the steps again. This will refresh your memory and you remember why you were there.
This candy has 12 grams of sugar, but this apple has 20. So why is this apple healthier than the candy? When you eat this candy, the refined sugar rushes through your blood, increasing a lot the sugar level in your blood. And to try to fix this, your pancreas releases a lot of insulin, which makes the sugar levels go back down. But this makes you feel tired, and that's where the craving to eat even more sugar comes from. The problem is this can increase your weight, blood pressure, and even cause pimples. But when you eat that apple, you're eating sugar along with fiber, and this fibers makes the sugar go through your blood more slowly, making the levels stay calmer and keep you healthy. To follow me. This is how a paper makes more noise than a horn. All you're gonna need is, well, a paper. Then fold the paper right in the middle and open it again. It needs to stay marked, like this. Now fold one of the corners until it reaches the middle and do the same thing with the other corners. It will look like this. After that, you can fold the middle of the paper again. It will look like a triangle without a tip. And now you are almost there. Fold one more time in the middle like this. Now just fold inward the tip from one side, repeat with the other, subscribe to the channel and... When you wake up from a really cool dream but forget it right away, this happens because your brain works in a different way when you are sleeping and kind of turns off some parts of it, because it knows that when you are awake you won't need to remember what happened while you were sleeping. But to make it even harder, the moment you wake up, it's like your brain was changing TV channels, and all of a sudden it goes from dream mode to real life mode. This is how you fold a shirt in just 1 second. Put your shirt in a kind of a flat place, like your bed. Now, you know this seam that's on the shoulder? Well, try to imagine a line that goes from it to the bottom part of the shirt. Now hold at the tip of the seam and with your other hand hold in the middle of that imaginary line. And pull the tip with the seam to the end of the line and hold these two parts together. Now just uncross your arms, subscribe to the channel and... How many sheets are in a toilet paper roll? I started separating sheet by sheet because the package simply doesn't say how many sheets there are. And yes, I know I could have searched it on Google, but if it were like that, it wouldn't be fun, right? So I was separating sheet by sheet until I discovered the truth. After 98 sheets, it seemed like it had already been more than half of the toilet paper. And since I'll never make you wait for a part 2, you should subscribe, because I found out that a toilet paper has 173 sheets. When you cut an onion and start crying even without being sad, this happens because the onion has like a defense measure, and the moment you cut it, the onion starts releasing a gas that we can't see. The problem is that this gas is kinda acidic, and it goes up very quickly until it reaches our eyes. When this happens, our body notices that the eyes are kinda irritated, and tries to protect them using tears to wash the eyes. If you look at this pen, you'll see that it has a hole in the tip of the cap. This hole exists to save someone's lives, but how so? You've probably seen someone biting the pen cap. Many people do this. The problem is that when someone keeps doing this, it can happen that this person swallows the cap by accident, and the cap
cap gets stuck in the middle of the throat. But if the cap didn't have this hole, there would be no way to breathe and the person could die. When you rub your eyes and see some strange lights, you don't need to worry too much, because when you rub your eyes, you're kind of squeezing them and this creates kind of a pressure. This pressure activates the part of your eyes that are used to notice light, but you end up seeing those things because of a confusion your brain makes with all of this. Because the same way I get confused when you take too long to subscribe to the channel, your brain receives like mini shocks, and instead of feeling the pressure I mentioned before, it understands this as if it had received light. If you drop a cookie on the floor and pick it up within 5 seconds, is it safe to eat? Well, depending on how the texture is, some foods are contaminated faster than others, because foods that are more juicy, like a piece of watermelon, are usually attacked by bacteria as soon as they hit the floor, and this is faster than drier foods. But actually the time difference is very small, and it's been proven that any food is contaminated almost immediately. When you are sick and get a fever, this happens because when something like bacteria enters your body, the cells that protect your body send like a message to your brain to do something and deal with the bacteria. And there's a part of your brain that decides if the body gets hot or cold to keep things under control. This part is called hypothalamus, and at this moment it tells the body to heat up, because when this happens and the body heats up, many bacteria end up dying and the ones that survive get weaker. This means that fever is there to help you. Have you ever noticed that fire doesn't have a shadow? This happens mainly for two reasons. The first is that, well, for a shadow to exist, something has to block the light. Think about it. Light can pass through your hand and that's why it makes a shadow. But the first reason is that since the fire flame is almost transparent, it can't block light enough. And when you put this together with the second reason, everything makes sense. Because think with me, if you look at a light bulb that's on, you won't be able to see a shadow inside there. Since fire also makes light, it's the same thing. When you pull air from a balloon
and your voice gets high, this happens because
the air inside these balloons is helium gas, and it's 7 times lighter than the air you breathe. Because of this, the sound of your voice can pass much faster through the muscles in your throat. And even though overdoing helium gas is very dangerous for your body, what happens with your voice is like your mouth started paying more attention to the higher sounds. And when you put this together with air passing faster,
your voice gets very high.
Can you stop a stopwatch exactly at 5 seconds? This seems easy, but this was my first attempt. And no matter how much I concentrated, I couldn't stop missing. But after some time I realized that I was counting wrong. Instead of starting at 1, you have to start at 0. After that I start getting closer and closer. And I'm gonna try with 1 minute when I reach 100,000 subscribers, but after trying 43 times, this happened. When you rub this balloon on your skin, the hairs stand up because these frictions makes the balloon steal some mini particles of your hairs. These particles are called electrons, and this leaves the balloon with a different type of energy than the energy of your hairs. But you've probably heard that opposites attract, right? Since these different types of energy are positive and negative, the hairs want to go toward the balloon. But at the same time, each hair has the same type of energy, and the same energies end up pushing each other away. That's why they stay like this, all packed up, trying to run away from each other.